What is a subtle sign that someone is really intelligent?
They can ask really good questions.
When they explain something, they make you feel intelligent.
Explaining something complex is simple terms. Knowledge is so vast that they can talk about in the easiest way for someone else to understand.
People who use analogies to explain concepts to others. It's a form of code switching, and integrating concepts on the fly is a clear indicator someone is both socially and conceptually intelligent.
They spend time thinking before asking a question.
They can genuinely consider an idea which opposes their worldview without necessarily accepting it.
They can switch up the way they talk to match the person they're talking to without sounding condescending. They listen to how others learn and explain it in that person's language of understanding.
They aren't afraid to say they don't know the answer to a question.
They know when their knowledge ends and say something to the extent of, "I don't know, and anything else I say on this topic is ignorant speculation."
They admit to changing their mind about something.
They effortlessly communicate complex concepts in a simple way.
They can follow the plot of Kingdom Hearts without needing any line graphs or charts.
Massive alien forehead.
They are curious about everything. To be intelligent, you need to be knowledgeable, and you can't be knowledgeable if you are never curious.
Admitting when they're wrong and being willing to learn from mistakes.
They say they love learning and they learn something new every day. Then they listen more than talk.
I think intelligent people are more willing to calmly debate, discuss, rather than argue. Like, you explain to them why you disagree, and they listen to you and ask further questions about your viewpoint before offering a different perspective. As opposed to an unintelligent person, who would just resort to insults when other people disagree with them.
They draw wisdom from multiple sources. Wait, but that might be more wise than intelligent. But I guess those two tend to be seen together a lot.
Humor. I think that truly funny people are often very smart and cognizant of the different ways an idea can be humorous on several levels. They also know their audience. I think the difference between, say, a Jeff Foxworthy and a Dave Chappelle and a Bo Burnham is their audience and their interests.
Talking to people as if they're intelligent at their level and without being condescending or even letting on that it's lower than their level. I used to work with a doctor, Tom Howard, and the day I realized he was a genius was the time he guessed every single condition a patient of mine had based on minute pieces of information about him.
They apply knowledge from one realm into a new and relevant situation. For instance, one person described a situation, might have been on Reddit, where they were a new assistant in an academic research lab and fixed a snag that stumped all the senior researchers, including the professor. The team was trying to video record their project using a strobe light, and their footage wasn't working as planned. When no one else made progress at diagnosing or solving the problem, the most junior individual spoke up and suggested that the strobe could be out of phase. They remembered that video typically records at a rate of 24 frames a minute/second. Thanks for the correction, and explained that along with suggesting a change to the strobe's flash rate so it would coincide with the recording. This worked, and it really raised up that individual's reputation within the group. Inwardly, they were almost embarrassed about the source of this knowledge. They had a gaming hobby back in high school, and had taken some video footage of that, and discovered the standard frame rate while playing around in editing software. But they remembered that detail years later and realized it made a difference in a completely different context. That is intelligence.
They're logical, and they find out more information rather than believing something right away.
They don't brag about it.
They don't open up threads like these hoping to find comments that fit how they see themselves. Yeah, I see you looking through these comments.
You shouldn't ask Reddit about intelligence.
You can honestly just tell by their vibes. The way they compose themselves, talk, write, think, explain, etc. What I find the most interesting is that intelligent people, in my experience, are more likely to be less cold, fact-driven, and more theoretical and creative. For example, if an intelligent person were to read a certain stat, fact, idea, etc., they are likely to have very interesting theoretical extrapolations. My friend qualified for the Mensa membership, and whenever we talk, his mindset always strays towards very interesting outlooks. He has certain ideas that I would never have even thought about. It's actually very fun to talk to intelligent people. The way they are able to absorb information like a sponge and apply that information is very eye-opening.
They understand what you're saying before you're even done with your explanation.
They're curious as heck.
There is also this lovely thing I like to call intelligence by association. I am a prime example of this. My small rural town seems to think I'm a genius simply because I can read at a level above your average 4th grader, when in fact I'm a high-functioning moron.
ITT. People who don't understand the difference between intelligence and social skills.
Intuition.
They listen really well, and seek to understand when they listen.
People who are genuinely curious about the world, ask questions, and listen to others instead of just waiting for their turn to talk. Also, they don't view education as just a means to get a job.
They solve math problems left on the board at MIT and they're only a janitor.
Active eyes, but not in an I'm tweaking right now way.
Curiosity. Pursuing things they want to know for about and just having an interest in things.
Dynamism and creativity. I really don't agree with that old notion of an intelligent person, as someone with social difficulties who's good at logical thinking. This is just one single possibility, among dozens of others.
This is more of a hit or miss one, but in casual conversation they're good at puns, wordplay. Making good puns, especially spontaneously, requires a high level of understanding in whatever language is being spoken. If they tell you a pre-constructed joke that has a punchline that is a punchline if you will, you can't really tell, because they could have had a lot of time to come up with it, like me for instance, or they could have memorized it from somewhere. But spontaneous puns generally mean they're processing your conversation multiple interpretations at once, in an intelligent way.
Great sense of spatial awareness at grocery store.
As an English teacher, I'm probably biased, so take my opinion for what it is. That said, I can often identify a brilliant student by the way he uses written language. It's hard to explain, it's not just vocabulary, and it's not the concepts communicated in the writing, it's the fullness and maturity of the writer's voice, which encompasses the aforementioned and then some. The piece of writing often sounds like it could not possibly have been authored by the student.
Everyone wants to be on their team when playing Trivial Pursuit.
They can fill in the blanks and skip steps.
They completely align with my political views. S.
I really like this topic.
They surround themselves with those who are more intelligent than they are. If you're the smartest person in a room, you know damn well to find a better room.
A lot of these responses seem more about self-confidence. Admit you're wrong? Confidence. Admit you don't know something? Confidence. Change your opinion when presented with new information? Confidence with a dash of intelligence. Intelligence indicators EMO. The ability to quickly grasp and apply new concepts is a huge indicator. The ability to clearly communicate concepts across specialties, huge education or experience gaps. Using generic problem-solving skills on new and unfamiliar problems without prior knowledge of the space.
One of the first cues for me is when someone speaks rather quickly but pauses, backtracks in the middle of a sentence to think about what they're saying.
Someone who knows, they know nothing at all.
Intelligent people often go against the trends and immediately point out when something doesn't make sense even if it's supported by a large crowd of people. They often read things they disagree with in order to challenge themselves.
They ask questions and spend more time listening than talking.
Laughing at a joke a second before the rest of the audience does.
They hear more than they talk and usually know all the answers for your questions.
Highly inefficient at accomplishing anything because they're enamored by everything. Like little moths flapping towards flickering candles in the distance.
People who get excited when they're wrong. Like, smart people get disappointed too, especially if their misunderstandings are the cause of larger problems, but there's also a kind of underlying excitement of, wait, whoa, this works different than I thought? Interesting.
They're hilarious.
At the grocery store, usually between customers, a till person will poke at the bags or wipe the belt, or whatever to look busy. There's a young girl at our local store who busies herself as usual, except sometimes she will look around at customers. Not open-mouthed 1,000-yard stare, but actually looking at customers. She was watching them, studying them. I spent almost 20 years in security, and the way she studied customers was exactly the way I did it. I thought it was very interesting. I shared it with my wife, who's a teacher, who told me she's actually one of the smartest students in the school. I knew it.
They don't believe they are.
Their curiosity and urge for learning.
They like being corrected.
You see them trying to learn from other people.
Reddit mod weary hotface.
To be able to shift perspective and scope of a problem with ease. For instance, if discussing economic issues to understand the ramifications that a policy would have on people who aren't just poor, rich, urban, suburban, educated, ignorant, etc. Then, to understand how those audiences would accept or reject those policies. Everyone has opinions, but few people consider that to realizing those opinions into reality have consequences, and even fewer are willing to articulate what consequences they are willing to accept or reject. In simple words, it's just thinking it through, but I find this separates those who engage with topics from those who just wish for magical ponies while *******ing about problems.
People who don't say, I'm a Democrat, Republican.
A sexually explicit username.
Always tries to see the bigger picture, considers multiple perspectives in the story. Not overcompensating with flowery words in their speech, can explain a point concisely.
It depends on the definition. My husband has rebuilt cars, knows what every sound in a car, truck or motorcycle probably means and what needs to be done to fix it. Some issues he knows how to fix. Some issues he leaves with experts. He knows his limitations. That's intelligent right there. He also knows building codes and can do pretty much anything in our home, including electrical, plumbing and structural codes. Everything is up to code, in the house he bought a year before we met. He's built 3 computers since I met him 6 years ago, including the one I'm currently using. He understands RAM and ROM and all sorts of other terms that I can't keep in my head, that are computer-related. He knows exactly what's needed to make the computer work properly and how to get the most out of every machine. His friends call him for advice about anything they want to fix or change in their homes, as he knows the answers and can explain it to them in a way that they can understand. If they're working on a project, he'll drop everything, especially if he thinks they're in over their head, to help them. There are a few things he can't do, like painting, so he hires people for those things. He can't spell worth a damn. Not even his siblings' names. Whenever he's using a computer, I often get called into whatever room he's in, just to spell a word or two or to help him find something on whatever page he's trying to read on the computer. OTOH, I can spell. That's my superpower. I can also knit, embroider and crochet, but haven't in years. I'd have to say of the two of us, he's the intelligent one. Because of how he looks and acts, people underestimate him all the time, until they get to know him. There's really not much he can't do, and do well, including cooking.
Using PPE properly. I work in an auto shop, and the smart guys use goggles and earplugs when necessary. The dummies don't, and have substantial hearing loss.
When they learn things their own way.
Silence.
I was wrong.
Watching Rick and Morty.
They are able to listen to drastically different points of view without getting offended. Understanding that human beings are very limited in what they actually know.
Honestly, I don't think there is one thing. Being intelligent in one field usually means you also lack in another. Just because I can do calculus with ease doesn't mean I'm intelligent socially. I think a subtle sign would be someone who does brainstorming for any situation though, taking into effect both sides or positives, negatives.
I always loved this quote from Neil Stephenson's The Diamond Age. The difference between ignorant and educated people is that the latter know more facts. But that has nothing to do with whether they are stupid or intelligent. The difference between stupid and intelligent people, and this is true whether or not they are well educated, is that intelligent people can handle subtlety. They are not baffled by ambiguous or even contradictory situations. In fact, they expect them and are apt to become suspicious when things seem overly straightforward.
They put pineapple on pizza.
They listen more than they talk.
My paternal grandma is really intelligent, I think. She went to secretarial school in the 1950s but never really worked, so I wouldn't call her highly educated or anything. But I think she could have gone far in higher education if she'd attempted it. I'll explain something to her, and ask her if I'm making sense. She's 90 years old. I wouldn't be at all surprised if I said something that went over her head from time to time. But she doesn't miss a step. Whenever I describe a situation or concept to her and ask her if I'm making sense, she will repeat the thing I said back to me, using different wording and her own examples to prove she absolutely understood. I don't know many other people who do that. She also is happy to change her stance on anything when presented with new information. And a lot of times she'll bring it up again months later and thank you for showing her a new perspective. She isn't just swayed by me because I'm her granddaughter, she's the same way with everyone else I've ever seen her interact with. TLDR, more people should be like my 90-year-old grandma, who is not a dumbass and actually listens to people.
Self-deprecation in their humor and curiosity about even things they're not supposed to do according to their government. Also knowing the pursuit of knowledge is infinite and ultimately in the grand scheme of things individual knowledge is inconsequential in scale. Even geniuses are specialized intelligences and may be ignorant in some regard.
Me. Desperately searching these comments to validate my ego.
Being able to read PPL's body language and generally understanding social cues.
They have no idea that they are intelligent and unknowingly expect people to understand complex concepts.
They have a ton of upvotes on their Reddit comment.